we had a moment of silence here on Sunday, and just took a second. The bells rang from the city hall and stuff, and everybody stopped to pray for a little bit. We stopped to pray even though we're not really very religious people in general. Most people in Japan aren't. It's just part of kind of a tradition to show respect. So it can be a little misleading to people from other cultures where they're used to things, you know, praying equaling being really religious. You'll see a lot of pictures of people praying at shrines on New Year's and other holidays, and they actually don't believe in any religion at all. It's just kind of part of the culture. But it still is, you know, a sign of respect and giving time to think and, you know, reflect on everything that's happened. I know I heard a lot of people last year when the terrible tragedy hit. A lot of people wrote to me through my origami channel and asked if I was okay, which I greatly appreciate. Of course, people don't know maybe necessarily exactly where I live in Japan, but I did find it kind of funny how so many people don't really grasp you know, what Japan is, how big it is, those kinds of things. In one sense, Japan is insanely small, of course. It's the same size about as California. But in that sense, too, if somebody were to tell you that there were some massive, you know, forest fires in Northern California, you wouldn't ask your friends in Los Angeles if they were okay. You'd probably know that they were all right because they're far enough away from the area. So I appreciated a lot of people asking. Some people thought my house was gone. Some people thought my families were gone. And I appreciated the concern, but I was also a little surprised by how people can't really grasp the space of the distance of places. The tsunami, well, the earthquake hit just north of Tokyo, and I live in Kyushu, so it's a whole different island. So we were actually fine. Very luckily, of course. The radius of damage was a little bit outside of the central point, of course, but some people even a little ways away weren't hurt that bad. We had lots of friends and family who live in Tokyo that their traveling system was kind of upset by the tragedy, but luckily their homes and the tsunami did not affect them in any way. Of course, afterwards, the lifestyle there changed a great deal because so many people were on a cycle for electricity. So certain blocks of Tokyo had electricity for certain times of the day as part of their effort to kind of alleviate some of the stress requiring electricity in the city. So that was kind of a unique experience for our friends that lived there. We did have family who actually live in the area that was hit by the earthquake and the tsunami. We're very fortunate that they actually lived farther up north into the mountain region away from the shoreline so that the tsunami didn't hit them in any way. It was a little touch and go for a while because we hadn't heard from my husband's grandmother for about a week after the tragedy because she's in a old folks home and their phone lines were down. Everybody was fine. They were safe. The few things fell off the shelves after the earthquake, of course, but it was a little worrisome because we couldn't get a hold of her, of course. But then she was fine, so that was good news. And people's homes were definitely shook up a lot because the earthquake was so devastating. But the tsunami really just hurt, of course, the thousands and thousands of people who live really close to the shoreline. And it was definitely shocking to watch. And then the aftermath and worrying about the nuclear problem has been very hard, I think. Still here in Japan, the big news is always about the nuclear plants and what's going to happen with that. And, how much is the government lying to us, which a lot of people think the government's lying a lot, and making people a little scared. But sadly, a lot of people here are used to living in a time full of so much peace that they don't challenge things very much, and they don't, some people will make the topic about the fact that there was a lot of cover-up of how bad the nuclear leak was, but sadly, a lot of people don't rally behind that and get excited and try to do something. So in that sense, I feel a little sorry because I know the people that are right there in the heart of everything are struggling so hard. The kids that are going to school nearby, they have to worry about how much radiation's in their school lunches, and things aren't being really clear on that end, and it's definitely questionable if things are safe. But sadly, it's not a big news story for everybody else. You know, it's been a year, and it's sad how quickly things pass from our mind. So, you know, there's always that dilemma of all the wonderful people who sent money to try to help everybody, and so much of that money hasn't even gotten to those people yet. It's stuck in bureaucratic kind of tape of trying to work things out. Lots of people still don't have a place to live. So, you know, if you're thinking about it at this time because it is the anniversary and you're wondering if everyone's okay, they're doing all right, but maybe not as well as they could have done 20 years ago, for example, when people had a little bit more reserve to bounce back faster. So I've seen people in Japan do amazing things after tragedy, and it seems that this time around it's maybe not quite as impressive as it could have been. So I think, you know, if there's feeling that you might have that there's anything you can do to help, I know people here would still greatly appreciate it. And just starting conversations too and talking about things. There's so much to be learned from here, what happened, to try to think about, you know, our reliance on nuclear energy and those kinds of topics, all really important things. So any of your guys' comments or questions I'd really appreciate in the comment section below. And, you know, if you get a second to kind of reflect upon that tragedy anywhere you are, I think, you know, the world would appreciate it, of course. So